My name is Stacy Henrik. I'm a TDM manager at GVF and at Communities in Motion. We're thrilled to be here today partnering with Montgomery Community College on such an important event. Before we get into our panel discussion, I'm just going to briefly tell you all a little bit about Communities in Motion. So community, if I hit the right button, go the right way. Communities in Motion is a nonprofit organization. It's the foundation through GVF, which is a transportation management association. The focus of Communities in Motion is improving our region's communities' quality of life. We do that by partnering with public and private sectors and educating the community's youth. So we do this using 3 different strategies: education, health and wellness initiatives, and community outreach. So 2 of the programs we were involved in this year under the education is the Distracted Driving Awareness Campaign. This is where we partnered with AAA and we went out to the schools with high schoolers holding interactive presentations to focus on safe driving habits and awareness towards distracted driving. So wearing seatbelts, avoiding using your cell phone, and as an ongoing thing to spread that awareness, we held a contest for students where we asked them to submit short and fun video clips of just awareness towards distracted driving. And today we've had like over 100 submissions, and that started I think last year, so it's been kind of popular. The other program we were involved in was Traffic Safety Town. This is where we taught 3rd graders about different modes of transportation and how to safely travel within their communities through biking or walking. So what we did, we went into the schools and we set up like an interactive streetscape in their playground. And we were teaching them, how to cross the street safely and road signals and road signs and the rules to follow and things like that. We did that in the Pottstown School Area District, which was really fun. Community outreach and health and wellness, we're involved in International Walk to School Day. We hold food drives over the holidays, and also today, the Sustainability Career Day, I know we've been heavily involved in. GVF and Communities in Motion do offer internship opportunities. It's called the Peter Quinn program, and that comes from the GVF founder. They do give students the opportunity to learn about local government, engineering, organizations, as well as being in a professional environment. To date, GVF has given out over $2,000 towards these internships for students. So that's a little bit about Communities in Motion and GVF. I'm going to hand it over to our panel. First, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Jurasik, Assistant Mall Manager at King of Prussia Mall, Simon Mall.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Jonathan Jurasik. I also get Jurassic. It looks like Jurassic, so it's all good. I even respond to "Hey you." So just want to take a quick moment, say thank you for everyone being here today. Like I said, my name is Jonathan Jurasik. I am the Assistant Mall Manager at King of Prussia, Simon Mall. I've been at the property for about 2.5 years, and what I specifically work in is a subset of the commercial real estate field, specifically property management, for the retail malls portion. A little bit about me, 26 years old. I went to Villanova for my undergraduate degree. I got my degree in economics, specialized in international economics, and started with Simon Property Group as a mall manager and training down in Naples, Florida. After that, I then was promoted to a management trainee program, which is for high talent individuals who are assigned special properties, and I continued on there for about 10 months in Atlanta, Georgia. After that, I was brought back to the Philadelphia area where I was promoted to the assistant mall manager at King of Prussia. During that time, we started our renovation and expansion, so if you have not been at the mall, I highly recommend that. Just had to do my quick little spiel. Holiday season right around the corner, right? So we expanded, we added 50 new stores, about 250,000 square feet of GLA, and you may be asking, what does this have to do with sustainability? Right now, it doesn't sound like much, but I can go into all the sort of initiatives that you may be unaware of that go on behind the scenes with regards to that. So just some little bit about the industry. we're seeing a huge shift. I'm sure everyone's heard that the malls are dead. It's all going to online commerce, things along those lines. That's not actually the case. You're now seeing this sort of mixed-use development, a live, work, play, if you will, for commercial real estate, where there's residential, there's retail, there's office, there's grocery store. It's a wide variety. And you're also going to be seeing more amenities. You want the customers to live there or stay longer, because if they have more time there, there's a bigger propensity for them to actually do some shopping, which incrementally moves the sales. In terms of industry outlook, you're going to see about 8% growth over the next several years. So there is job opportunity. It's not one of the actual fields that has seen job shrinkage. That's because real estate's tangible. There's always going to be a need for people to live, people for them to shop and work. So there's always going to be something going on with those. Going back to sort of a little bit about me, I actually did not have any degree from the STEM field, but that does not mean I'm not involved with any of the engineering or things along those lines. I was heavily involved in the expansion with weekly updates on the construction, things along those lines. So you can either have a business-related degree or an engineering-related degree, or it could just be a fine arts degree. You're not limited to being in a STEM field to actually get into something that's sustainability-driven. I am a huge proponent of continuing education. I'm actually going on to get my master's degree at Villanova. I'm getting an MBA in commercial real estate and finance. So it's, again, just sort of broadening your scope, things that will sort of help you, general skill sets that will help you continue on with your education. There's a lot of job opportunities within the field other than the typical IT, energy. Those are major proponents, and that's one of our largest costs in commercial real estate is your utility bill. But there's marketing directors, there's security directors, there's leasing representatives. So there's a broad background that you can still get involved in with regards to property management of these properties. That being said, there's a lot of ways to get involved with sustainability initiatives. Some of the initiatives that we're involved in is just every store has boxes that have their product that come in. Well, we have cardboard compactors, we have plastic balers, we have grease traps that'll recycle oil and grease, things along those lines for these food uses, for these retail uses that are diverting the actual waste that goes into these landfills. So that's just one way. Looking at with the expansion, if you're familiar with sort of what was there, we had an old parking garage. We recycled, I want to say, close to 60 or 80% of that parking garage for parts and other uses, and then we built a new one. We're looking at green sort of roofs. How can we sort of make sure that we're diverting heat so that we're lowering our cooling costs? We're looking at the lighting that's going on in the malls. Make sure we're turning it on when it starts getting dark, not running the lights 24/7. All these sort of things that sort of tie into just being a sustainable mall that is reducing their carbon impact, because we are a huge community center. At the mall during the off season, we have roughly 7,000 employees. That peaks closer to 10,000 employees during the holiday season, and we have 20 million annual visitors at King of Prussia. So that just sort of shows the volume of sales in terms of the retail product, the cardboard boxes, the plastic shrink wrap, things along those lines that can go on, and that you may be unaware of that's going on behind the scenes with regards to just sustainability initiatives. I myself, when I was in college, I was unaware of all the things that were going on with the mall management. I was sort of unaware that there was even a mall management company. I just sort of that they were all there just magically. But there's a lot of things that do happen, and you don't necessarily have to be a finance degree or an accounting degree. Unfortunately, there is no mall management 101 class, at least that I'm unaware of. If there was, I would have taken that class, but there's no class for it. So it's just picking up those sort of skills and learning what you're passionate about and just applying those. It can be a fine arts degree, it can be an engineering degree, it can be a science degree, but just come, and part of that too is just having a creative perspective on how you want to look at things and look at sort of needs that can be applied. That being said, I'm not knocking on any of the degrees. I think every degree is valuable, but don't let that limit you to, oh, well, I can't apply to be a mall manager or an operations director or a leasing representative. All these things come together and sort of make this city come alive and have a huge impact when King of Prussia has over 20 million visitors. I think that's pretty much all I have, so at this point, pass it on.
All right. Next, I'd like to introduce Becky Collins, and she is the Corporate Initiation Manager of Sustainability at SEPTA.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. Do I have to be closer? There we go. There we go. Okay, so sustainability at SEPTA. So I'm the corporate initiative manager at SEPTA, and what that means is I'm basically the point person for all the sustainability initiatives that happen within the authority. SEPTA's sustainability program has a triple bottom line approach. So this may be familiar to some of you. It's not just about environmental sustainability, it's about social and economic sustainability. So our new program that we're launching in 2016 at the end of November looks at all of those three categories, and we've established goals to work towards. So for instance, goal 5 under the natural environment category is to reduce waste and recycling. So like, you know, our friends at the mall, we are looking to reduce the packaging that comes in for all of the parts that we need for our buses and our rail and our office supplies, that sort of thing. For our livable communities goal, looking at improving access to fresh food. Philadelphia is one of the most impoverished cities in all of the United States. Food access is a huge issue, so one of the things that we've incorporated into our sustainability program is actually to locate farmers markets at large transit hubs. So this means that people en route to wherever their destination is, they don't have to make another stop or travel out of their way. They can actually pick up produce, fresh food right then and there. The interesting things about the farmers market is that you can also use the SNAP bucks, which are like food stamps, to purchase the produce there. Looking at economic vitality, one of the new goals that we're focusing on this year is to actually start tracking the positive financial impact of sustainability initiatives. What I mean by that is we purchase hybrid buses. There is a financial and economic impact to purchasing hybrid buses through reduced fuel costs. Same with when we change out all the lights. We're not only reducing the amount of energy that we're using at the facility, but through operations like what you're doing at the mall, making sure the lights aren't on when people aren't there. We're also reducing that. That's a sustainability initiative. We're starting to track that now. So SEPTA's sustainability program is kind of a big deal, right, in the transit industry. What's interesting about SEPTA is that we are a legacy agency. So we've been around for a very long time. We have a lot of infrastructure that is, you know, on the way to being replaced. It really should be replaced. So that makes sustainability challenging, right? Especially when transportation has traditionally been underfunded. So if you have no money to make improvements for an old system that is inefficient, it's challenging to do sustainability. However, what we realize at SEPTA is that the better relationships that we have with every single department, the better programs that we can develop, the initiatives we can push through. We have to get a little bit creative, but we've been really successful in being creative and pushing through sustainability programs. So that is a little bit about what I do at SEPTA. Now I'd like to talk about how I got to SEPTA. So this is kind of my career path in a visual representation. So I started off at Syracuse University. I graduated in 2003. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I studied communications, which is a great field to be in because it's so broad and everybody communicates. So when graduation came, naturally, I moved to Los Angeles and started to work with Judge Judy because that's what you do when you don't know what you want to do. So I lived in Los Angeles for about 6 years. I worked in the television industry, not just for Judge Judy, but for Universal Music Group. I did award shows. I kind of did it all. And it was great, and it was a lot of fun. And then I decided, you know, my heart's not really in this. I need to figure out what I want to do. I'm going to move back to the East Coast because I grew up in Bucks County. But wait, before I do that, I'm just going to take a month-long sailing trip because why not, right? In that time, I kind of figured out, all right, I want to make a career choice. I'm going to start applying to graduate schools. And I ended up going to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. and studying in their planning department. So I studied environmental systems management, which basically is environmental planning for urban environments, and I loved it. And I knew that this was what I wanted to do. So I got a job at Waste Management in Philadelphia, which when I tell people that I went from television to garbage, they're like, why would you ever do that? The truth of the matter is that I felt more fulfilled working and dumpster diving than I did when I was in beautiful sunny California, much like it is today. So for waste management, what I did was I worked with large entities, so like the King of Prussia Mall, that would have been one of my clients. I worked with casinos, hotels. I helped develop composting, recycling programs, waste minimization. SEPTA was one of my clients. So what's interesting about that is that I never really ever thought that I would work in transportation. But through this good working relationship that I established with SEPTA, when they had a position available, they encouraged me to apply. So that's how I got to SEPTA. That all has taken 15 years since I graduated from college. So it wasn't the straightest path, but I have to say where I am now, I'm the most happy and fulfilled in my professional experience that I have ever been since graduating from college. So all that being said, what I learned from this big experience. Public speaking is extremely important. So I will give you an example. When I went back to grad school, I was in classes with environmental engineers, sustainability professionals who have been in the field for a number of years, and I was like, holy crap, I'm totally out of my league. What am I doing here? And it was extremely intimidating. And then we had our first presentation. And these very intelligent people got up and started to explain complicated systems in a very complicated way. And I knew that with anything, if you can't break it down so that people understand what you're talking about, it's lost. It's lost on your audience. How are you supposed to engage with a group of people, convince them to do something when they have no idea what you're talking about? So public speaking is extremely important. If there are classes, I would imagine that there are communication classes here. I would definitely encourage all of you to take one. So, you know, those soft skills. So negotiation is another one, extremely important. I'm negotiating all the time, right? It's, I would like to do this. This is the benefit for you, engineer, architect. You know, how can we make this work together? Behavior, learning why people are motivated, what they are motivated by. That's extremely important. Sustainability has come such a long way, but it's not like people are going to want to do everything that's good for the environment or for the community. Most people will do it if it's good for the finances, the economic, the bottom line. So leveraging, knowing that, making an argument, leveraging that fiscal responsibility is really important in sustainability. And again, I mentioned this, the key successes have all been built on really strong relationships within the organization or with third parties. I cannot stress that enough. I feel like if you want to be a successful person in this field of sustainability, you have to know how to talk to people and get them on your side. So I partner with a lot of people, as I said, architects, engineers, designers, government affairs, tradespeople, the public, teachers, students, public relations and media. There's so many opportunities in the field of sustainability. The other thing that I would say is that every opportunity you have, whether or not it has sustainability in the title, you can take that experience and leverage it to learn about sustainability, take on projects that maybe you're passionate about. Because if sustainability is, if you want to be the director of sustainabilities or the manager of corporate initiatives hyphen sustainability, my title, you're gonna have to have things that you can point to under your belt that's like, hey, listen, you know, I was the assistant director at Verizon, but I started an e-cycling program and I did, you know, toolbox meetings with the staff about the importance of recycling. If you can point to that, if you can lead that initiative, that's really great. So that next, you know, the next job that you apply to might have sustainability in the title. So I think another thing that's really important is to get involved early. So this is a list of organizations and certifications that would be good for you to investigate if sustainability is something that you're passionate about. The other thing is that you never know who you meet and what they will be able to offer or help you out with in the future. So example being when I was working at Waste Management, I wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna do a great job because I wanna get a job at SEPTA. It just happened naturally. So putting yourself into positions where you're meeting people that are doing things that you would like to do is never a bad thing. And to do it consistently, right? So it's not just finding an event and going to it once. It is becoming a member, getting on their mailing list, going multiple times, having organic, sincere conversations with people about what you want to do. It's really intimidating and it's really hard to put yourself out there, but it makes a huge difference in the end. So that is all I have to say today. I would just like to put this out there. I'm more than happy to speak at an environmental science class or anything else. So like if there are other opportunities, even urban planning, transportation planning, that sort of thing, I'm happy to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. And next, I'm going to introduce Edward Harris, and he is the Assistant Vice Manager, Marketing Communications for Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board.
Thank you. Great. First off, I want to thank Stacy. I want to thank the team at GVF, and of course, Montgomery County Community College for putting on a session like today. I think it's really important in today's business climate. And I think I really enjoyed how you kind of illustrated your background. And I think rather than jumping into my current role as the Vice President of Marketing Communications at the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board, which is a mouthful, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk about some of the different roles I've had in my career that have influenced my thinking in my current role. So education-wise, I went to school locally here in Philadelphia at St. Joseph's University, where I obtained my marketing degree. I also hold an MBA from Boston College in management. And my career path has taken me through the for-profit sector before arriving in this current role at this nonprofit organization. I spent close to 14 years in the footwear and apparel industry. And as you may know, there's been some issues in that industry when it comes to sustainability, fair labor laws, all those types of things. And I got a front seat view of that working at companies like Under Armour, Converse, and Timberland. And it was Timberland, if you're not familiar with it, it's an outdoor brand. I was working at their headquarters in Stratham, New Hampshire for 4 years. And they're a leader in terms of corporate social responsibility. And they really believe in the triple bottom line that was brought up earlier, where it's not just about profits, but it's also about doing something good for the environment and for the community. And some examples of some of the projects that I was really fortunate to be involved with at Timberland included the creation of the most environmentally responsible shoebox, made entirely, of course, of recycled cardboard and minimal glue. They've won awards for their packaging. They have also introduced things like a nutrition label on the labels for their waterproof jackets and boots that you buy in their stores, and it talks about the emissions and all of the things that go into manufacturing of a product. And the approach is that if you have a consumer that has two products that are the same cost, but one is lessening their impact on the environment or doing something good for the world, the intent is that consumers are going to be more apt to buy that more environmentally friendly product. And it was just an awesome experience to work at a company like Timberland, because as an employee, they also give their employees 40 hours a year to do community service. And so I was fortunate at the time. I went with a group to New Orleans right after Hurricane Katrina, and we helped rebuild homes with reclaimed wood and really just give back to the community in that way. So it's not always about just environmentally friendly products, but it's also about giving back to the community. And when it came to the actual products, the other example I'll give from my chapter at Timberland would be the Earth Keepers line of product. So there's a popular line of product at Timberland. It's called Earth Keepers, and it's for men and women, and it's very thoughtful when it comes to the materials used in making those products. For example, in all of the Earth Keepers line of boots, they use recycled tires in the outsoles of their shoes. They use recycled cotton in the laces in those boots. And they do that in apparel as well. It's not only a footwear line, it's also an apparel line at Timberland. It's called Earth Keepers. And I was really proud to be part of those meetings and those strategy sessions and bringing that idea to life. And that was back in 2006, so I'm going to age myself a little bit. We've come a long way 10 years later. And if you were to look at your student and you're very interested in what types of jobs exist today in 2016, if you were to go on a very popular job website like Indeed.com and you were to type in today sustainability jobs, you'd get 14,000 results. You wouldn't have anywhere close to that 10 years ago when I was working at Timberland. And Timberland doesn't make a really big deal in the press about these decisions they make, but all the way down to their manufacturing facilities around the world, they want to make sure that it's fair child labor, that the way those factories are powered are through solar panels. And they really think through this idea of doing well financially, but doing good with the community, et cetera, and your employees and treating them right. I can't say that was the same at some of the other stops I made in my footwear and apparel journey. But anyway, to make a long story short, I'm here today with the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board. And what we do there is we basically represent Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And Montgomery County, Pennsylvania is a pretty big geographic space. We're the second largest county here in Pennsylvania. And the first question I'm always asked is, why are you branded the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board when you represent all of Montgomery County? And the reason for that is our sales force, who travels around the country and tries to convince people to bring their next big corporate group or meeting to Montgomery County. In the past, they were asked, well, which Montgomery County are you? And does anybody here know how many Montgomery counties there are in the United States? Or I guess
60.
17.
Oh,
So there's
I
17
overshot that.
Montgomery counties. And
Yes.
I wonder how many Montgomery County community colleges there are. But are there really? Okay, so there's
There's
two.
a Montgomery community, or Montgomery College in Maryland.
Okay.
We get calls about that all the time.
Okay, there you go. And that is the reason we brand ourselves Valley Forge, because when we travel outside the area, most people who've taken even elementary school history, that name Valley Forge resonates or rings a bell. So beneath our Valley Forge umbrella brand, we have several brands in our portfolio. And these brands are, the intent of these brands are to segment groups who might be interested to come here. So Patriot Trails is a brand that's all about itineraries, to explore Revolutionary War history. So whether you're at the National Park in Valley Forge, or you're in Fort Washington at Hope Lodge, or 10 to 12 other places that were very important in the Revolutionary War period, Patriot Trails is a brand that we target those history buffs around the country to come here and spend a week and explore that. As most of you know, we do have the best shopping in the United States, right here in Montgomery County. We have Jonathan, who's here representing the King of Prussia Mall, but even beyond that, we have 4 other malls in Montgomery County. We have premium outlet shopping. We've got great small towns who have awesome boutiques, whether it's Skipback Village or Ambler, or Jenkintown, or Suburban Square. So Shop Montco is a big brand for us. Crave Montco is our dining brand. We do a guide twice a year in July and January where we highlight the great restaurants throughout Montgomery County. Valley Forge Sports, that's a very popular brand in the sense that 50% of all of the room nights that are booked in hotels in Montgomery County are attributed to sports tournaments. So these days, if you have kids who play sports, you may be involved with one who travels out of state to go to a tournament. That's becoming more and more popular, and we're seeing that at the tourism board. Golf is very big for us as well. Anybody here want to guess how many golf courses are in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania?
30? 75.
54. So we have 54 golf courses here, and so we're targeting golf enthusiasts all over the country to say, hey, we've got lots of golf, come here and make a weekend out of it. And while you're here, go to all our great restaurants, shop at our malls, etc. Montco 360 is something I'm going to get to in a minute, and that kind of brings me back to the issue of sustainability. But before I go there, quickly, Montgomery County Weddings is another brand we have, which is all about getting brides to say, I'm going to get married here. Right? It's free parking in Montgomery County if we compare it to our neighbors in Philadelphia. We've got beautiful outdoor spaces and venues. And anybody here want to guess how many hotels we have here in Montgomery County?
100.
Close, not quite, 74. 74 hotels. And I bring that up because our organization is funded by the hotel tax. So when guests from out of town stay overnight, there's a 2% charge on their bill. That comes to our organization. And we then spend the money as a nonprofit to continue to fill up those hotels with these various brands targeted at different groups. RevRun is also something I'll touch on in a minute. So circling back to sustainability, as you can imagine, working in a tourism organization, we typically print a lot of brochures, okay, for all these different segments. I'm happy to say that we're scaling back in that respect, and we're doing that with this brand, Montco 360. And so at montco360.net, you can go on a website, and we partnered with Google. We've basically created a virtual brochure. There's over 70 different places you can tour in Montgomery County on Montco 360. Google comes down from New York. We meet with them at a place like Bryn Athyn Cathedral, which is featured there on the screen, or a restaurant, a hotel, an athletic facility, you name it. There's all kinds of variety on montco360.net, and we take drones up in the sky, and we show off the interiors, etc. It's a really interesting site to take a look at. But the point is, we're not cutting down as many trees by taking your traditional brochure and bringing that to life in the digital world. And so we're experimenting, we're getting our foot in the door with, I like to say, virtual reality through this montco360.net website. And we're going to continue to add more and more venues. We recently had SEI Investments, which is over in Oaks, PA, have their corporate campus added to montco360.net because they're now using this as a recruiting tool to bring executives from outside the area to relocate. They can go on this site, they can see things that happen at the Elmwood Park Zoo, the mall, our restaurants, hotels, all kinds of interesting stuff. We also just are in the process of adding Manor College, which sees a benefit in showing off their campus on this website. We're going to continue to add more and more. And one more thing I'll say about brochures is that we're going to make more of an effort as we go forward to use recycled paper when we are printing brochures. But this is one step in the sustainability arena that we're taking. I mentioned earlier when I was at Timberland, being able to do 40 hours of community service a year. We don't quite offer that at the Nonprofit Tourism Board, but we are doing things now to give back and enrich the community through our organization. So every spring in April, we do a race at the park. It's the Revolutionary Run. It's a 5-mile race. It's the only run in a national park that's a 5-mile USTA sanctioned race, and we have to cap it at 1,200 runners because there's not enough parking. But a lot of people will use that race as a training ground for the popular Broad Street Run downtown. It's always 2 weeks prior to, but all the money we get in terms of signups for this race all goes back to the park for park improvements. So we're doing our part there to make sure that recreational activity continues to thrive at the park, whether you're there for a beautiful walk or hike or taking your bike or going for a run. We give back to the park in that way, and that's one small way we're helping the community. Another thing we're doing every September is the Valley Forge Freedom from Hunger food drive. And that was actually started last year with the Pope Francis visit to our area. He spent some time in Montgomery County, and we had this big brainstorming session where we talked about what kind of gift could we give the Pope to take back with him to Rome. And there were all these ideas, from mugs to bowls to all kinds of stuff that we could put our logo on. And then somebody on our team spoke up and said, I think we got it wrong, guys. The Pope is not one of material things, and if we give him something, it's probably going to end up in the Vatican basement somewhere. So why don't we start something in his honor, in his name? And that's where this idea of feeding those in need in Montgomery County came up, and we branded it the Freedom from Hunger Food Drive. I'm happy to say it wrapped up in September. We raised over 2,000 pounds of food, which will go towards food pantries as we approach the holidays. And we actually did a soup kitchen takeover where our president of our organization, who is a former executive chef, believe it or not, went into the soup kitchen in Norristown with members of the culinary program here at the community college and cooked up a gourmet meal for those 50 homeless people that day. And our staff served the meals. It was just a really feel-good day to give back to the community. And so to kind of wrap it up, when we talk about, that triple bottom line of profits, but beyond profits, giving back to the community and lessening our impact on the environment, we're trying to think of more ways to do that. And it's been an interesting experience for me because my prior career was all about product-based companies, whereas in this role, it's more about sharing information. But if we can do our part and print on recycled paper, or better yet, eliminate brochures and come up with events where we can also give back to the community, we feel like we're at least doing our small part in that sustainability effort. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you to Montgomery County Community College for letting us come out and do this. A big thank you to our panelists. And now we have some extra time for questions, if anybody has any.
You had mentioned the possibility of green roofs at the mall. Is it something that you're doing or you have plans to do?
Yes, we actually do have a grass roof. I believe it's about 10,000 square feet. It's over the Forever 21 sort of area of the mall right now. So that's something that we've looked at. I believe it was installed in 2013, but don't hold me to that, maybe 2012. But we've had it for a couple of years now. We've definitely seen some impact in the reduction of heat. What it does is it's basically almost like a layer of grass on there, and it absorbs moisture, but due to the heat and the sun and everything as well, it also deflects cooling needs as well. So that's one portion of the roof. Other portions of the roof, we have white sort of EPDM layer on top of it as well, so that's also reducing the impact. If it was black, it would absorb more heat, then increase our central plant cooling loads, things along those lines. So as we're replacing several of these roofs, we're now going with a white heat reflective material as well. But we do have a green roof, a grass roof, that's about 10,000 square feet of the mall. Yes, sir.
Just following that, do you do anything with the water collection from the roof, or maybe watering plants in the mall?
We do have several rain gardens that some of the roofs that'll drain into as well. Some stormwater we do try to do some stormwater retention, things along those lines, but we don't have a formal, like, every 90% of it. We don't have that yet, but I could see that in the near future, especially with a lot of these new mixed-use developments where they are, if it's a ground up, it's easier to implement those things. What's interesting about King of Prussia is it's not your traditional mall layout where it's almost like a football field or a figure 8. It's a weird layout, things along those lines, and it's gone through 9 expansions now over the years, so there's a lot of history, and it's we can't necessarily do that. But with some of the other properties that are being developed, Village of Valley Forge, I'm sure that there's going to be a sustainability initiative in water retention. We've trying to do our part as well by adding several rain gardens, the green roof, things along those lines to minimize the impact. But again, when you're dealing with sort of older infrastructure like she was talking about with SEPTA, it's one of those things that where do you start and how can you sort of measure the impact on it given all the different systems that are already in place. So we're trying to, but again, it's going to be gradual over the next couple of years. But I've definitely seen that through my studies at other commercial real estate properties, that there is a huge focus in diverting water, putting it to rain gardens, reusing it for landscaping, fertilizer, things along those lines.
Yeah, and even I've seen a parking lot. There's a nature center where they made the parking lot out of blocks so it absorbs
Right, so
water
then
into the runoff. And
one of the issues,
things like that.
unfortunately, with Montgomery County is we are prone to sinkholes. We have a lot of limestone here.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to be careful in how we're sort of letting that water back into the system. Case in point, when we were doing our expansion, there was I want to say it was a 212-foot deep sinkhole just from the limestone and water erosion, because we're right near Abrams Run, which is a creek that runs underneath the property. So we have to be sort of careful in how we do that, but there is a growing trend of that stuff going on at properties or different parts of the country where that's not necessarily an issue, and it is easier to do that. They do have completely porous cement as well, where all the water goes through because there's I forget some different type of binding agent, but that was one of the things I learned about in one of my real estate classes.
Yes. So to build off of that, you know, it's funny when you have like the buildings that, you know, this part was built, you know, 40 years ago. A lot of the times it's hard to trace the drain leaders. So you're like, oh, it's starting over here, but it actually drains out 3 miles.
Yeah,
like on the other,
way.
where you're trying. So that's a challenge, you know, that we have at SEPTA with some of our older facilities, like our bus depots and that sort of thing. Along with the stormwater, rainwater capture, that green roof. One of our new sustainability goals is to green 25 acres of our property by 2020. And that's one of the big pushes. Again, I talked about that economic, you know, if you can make them the money argument, it's easier to push initiatives through. So a couple years ago, the Philadelphia Water Department started to add a tax for stormwater. And what they did was they took the usage and the service and they reduced it, but then they added this other tax based on the amount of impervious surface that you have on your facility. So SEPTA is actually incurring a cost because we are not managing stormwater on our property. A lot of that has to do with the combined sewer system in Philadelphia, which is why, you know, a place like Montgomery County may not have instituted this stormwater fee. It's Philadelphia has a stormwater goal, so that's why they're kind of pushing it. But I've heard that other counties are thinking about implementing the same thing, which would my boss and I joke that I think we're the only 2 people within SEPTA that we are actually excited about that because it makes our job of greening infrastructure a better financial.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of green roofs at SEPTA, one at our 33rd and Dolphin bus loop, and then at 69th Street Terminal in Upper Darby. So we're doing green roof and a green wall there. It's our first ever green wall, which is great. And again, we're tracking the financial impacts of reducing stormwater at some of our larger facilities to make the business case
Yeah.
for those investments. We have a 6-acre project that we're looking at doing in 2017 at one of our oldest bus facilities. It's just going to capture the water and then release it slowly back into the sewer system. And if we can recharge the groundwater, we're going to do that. The issue with green roofs for us is that when our properties were built, they were not built to withstand the extra weight of the green roof.
Yeah.
So while I love green roofs, but the structural engineers, every time they see me coming, I think they're like, she's gonna ask me about a green roof. So, you know, again, that's challenging, but as we are starting to replace our infrastructure state of good repair, that's something that we're considering integrating, like beefing up the structure, that sort of thing, or seeing if there's alternatives. So.
Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, career specifically at SEPTA? When I think about SEPTA, I think of the transportation itself.
Yep.
So how your, maybe not the infrastructure, but your vehicles are changing to CNG and so, you know, and electric, and what that means as far as careers and that the types of degrees and the types of, you know, skills that you're looking for?
Definitely. So that's a great question. We are, as we are replacing our vehicles, they're becoming more and more sophisticated. So a lot of that is the electronic components of the system itself. So there are, you know, our mechanics, our welders, our, you know, everyone who touches the vehicle, power, track, it's becoming a more technical industry. So I think classes in IT or making sure that if you're doing a vocational trade, that there is some element of technology focus in your classes, because it is getting more and more technical. One of the things that SEPTA is looking at doing, we have a 5-year HR master plan, is actually developing partnerships with colleges, universities, that sort of thing, to get people in and seeing what the equipment looks like, where the industry is going, because we are having a lot of retirements in the next 5-10 years, and we know that the industry is shifting.
Well, Montgomery County Community College is a great engineering program, so when
Great.
you guys are interested in partnering.
We'll talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I want to thank Ed Harris. He's come to my marketing and management courses out at the West Campus before, and I know you work with the hotel industry a lot. Can you tell me more about some of the sustainability efforts of your hotel membership, if those are shared with you, and maybe how you might try and promote them as a whole or singularly? Or I don't
Sure,
know what's
yeah.
that?
So like I mentioned earlier, we have 74 hotels. So we have quite a few hotels, more hotels than any of our neighboring suburban counties. If you think about Bucks, they have quite a few bed and breakfasts, but not so many hotels. And same thing goes for Chester County. But we have every different kind of branded hotel you can think of, from high-end to motels, if you want to count them. And they're all making an effort in some way towards sustainability. Some are doing a much better job than others, whether it's just having more recycling on site, near the lobbies or in the rooms, etc. My personal opinion is that they can do a much better job. But a lot of it is controlled by corporate. And the hotels we have, whether it's the Marriott franchise or Sheraton or insert brand name, we probably have it in Montgomery County. Certain hotels are definitely doing a much better job, and I think it comes back to the leadership. These days, I think some of the younger executives have more of a sustainability mindset, and I think we'll see more of it going forward in our hotels. There's definitely been some strides taken, but there's a long way to go. I think just, how much water is being used in cleaning, the bedspreads and all. There's all these details that could be looked at more closely by the hotel corporations to do more of a, or I should say, make less of an impact on the environment. But we work very closely with the hotels, obviously, because we're funded by the tax, and it's something that we need to continue to have that dialogue with, to make sure they're thinking about, are we making the best decisions at every step of the way? Because there are ways to be less impactful in the environment if you're willing to try. And I think that again comes down to a lot of times the education of leadership. I didn't mention this earlier, but on the side, I teach marketing as an adjunct professor over at St. Joseph's University, and they now have a major. It's called Leadership, Ethics, and Organizational Sustainability. And there's an entire course load that you take, and you can major in this LEO for sure, is that they refer to it as Leo. And I think the more that universities offer those types of programs, a lot of times you'll see them at the master's level right now, but there's more and more undergraduate programs that are offering sustainability majors, which is great to see. Especially having two little kids at home, I want them to live in a world that's great and not, filled with pollution, et cetera. And I think as we see this millennial generation start to come into senior executive roles at some of these hotel operations or any business, I like to believe that we'll start to see a lot more effort in that area of sustainability, because I think a lot of people like to talk about it, but it's not uncommon to walk into a store or restaurant and sometimes see a recycling bin not far from a standard bin, and there's still lots of people throwing water bottles in the normal trash. And so sometimes, unfortunately, it also comes down to the individual. And the companies, whether it's a hotel or whatever, can try to do their part, but there's still a lot of people who could benefit from a course taken in sustainability to understand some of the impact they're making on the environment. I know it's a long-winded answer, but
It was a good one.
okay. But we're trying to work as much as we can with the hotels to make the suggestions. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's always, well, we got to run it through corporate. That seems to be, unfortunately, a response oftentimes. But at the same time, there's certain managers at the manager levels of these hotels who are willing to try their part, to do their part to help. So.
I actually have
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about the mall.
Yep.
I was in there 2 weeks ago and I went into a new wing and I saw you had a storefront there that looked like it was covered in shrubbery. And I was curious about that. I didn't get close enough to touch it, but it looked like it was real.
Which one was it? There was Hermes had a private event.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why-
it was Hermes. Okay,
yeah,
I
it was a
just
private
curious about
event.
that because I saw the wall with plants on it and I'm like, wow, are they growing like living plant, like they're having plant walls in there?
Put
Not-
that on your list.
Yep. Not yet. We have not at King of Prussia, but Simon has done that at several other properties,
Okay.
but it's not at King of Prussia. That was just for their, they had a private event for their grand opening of their new store. But we do that at several other properties across the country. I think Del Amo, which is over on the West Coast, has one as well. But I do know we do that throughout our portfolio.
Okay.
So SEPTA announced a high-speed rail that they're, I guess, going to complete in 2023 or something, I guess. What other types of transportation efforts have you made to help with, if it's parking is a problem and stuff, to make it more sustainable for getting some all in the area? And also trying to expand also biking lanes and taking for sure. What are some other initiatives you have?
So actually, last year, SEPTA published our first ever cycle transit plan, looking at how we can leverage relationships with outside organizations to make it easier for people to bike to the stations and then get on transit. So Montgomery County is actually starting a panel or think tank or something where they're putting together their bicycle access plan, and I'm sitting on that panel as well as someone else from our planning department. So I know that there are efforts in addition to like the extension to make it easier for people to walk and bike to the area.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, so we are working with what sort of infrastructure upgrades we can do, but as a more intermediate fix, what we do, we have employee shuttling that we do try to do some off-site parking. That's what we did during the expansion last year, where we had mall employees parking up actually at Lockheed on the weekends, things along those lines, because that's when customers tend to do their most shopping. So that way we have more parking spots available to the customers. We partner with Upper Marion Police and they're stationed throughout the lights so that we're minimizing the congestion so we can get people in and off 76, 276, all those highways. We also partner with GVF, the Rambler, the Connector. There's all these different shuttle services that are offered there as well. There's a lot of hotels that are surrounding King of Prussia, and they do complimentary rides as well. So I think once the high-speed line extension actually gets there, that's going to be a huge relief off the sort of the parking issue that we have at the mall. So there is a lot of long-term solutions that we're working with, but at the mall, at the local level, we also have some intermediary fixes during those peak traffic times during the holiday season, things along those lines, to make it customer friendly. Now, is that the end all be all? No, but I think with the SEPTA, the high speed line extension, that'll be beneficial because a lot of the employee base at the mall actually comes from Philadelphia. So that's going to be a huge relief right there. We also have several buses. I think there's 8 or 10 lines that come through we have a transit center there as well. So there's a lot of sort of intermediary fixes as well, but I think it's going to need to be looking at all these different solutions, how we can incorporate biking and things, all these alternative means of transportation into it. But we're trying to, again, we understand where the customers come from and the frustration associated with that. So as many cars that we can take off the road is our end all goal. And we're trying to sort of alleviate that on a more immediate basis.
And I think like too, just talking about career opportunities, planning, like city planning, county planning is huge for sustainability. So great example, today when I knew I was coming out here, I wanted to take the train. Well, it's a mile from the train station to the campus. And so I went on Google Maps, like Google Earth, and I looked and I was like, okay, well I could take my bike out and then bike, but there was not, like the road looked kind of busy and there was no sidewalk. And so I was like, well, I guess I have to drive now. So, you know, when you are in planning, when you are in government, you know, I think you have the opportunity to make bridge those gaps by putting in bike lanes or sidewalks or that sort of thing. So, you know, if anyone's here that can put a sidewalk from the train station to the campus.
So the college would love if someone would take that up in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
I mean, our students would love it.
Yeah. So maybe I can make that suggestion on the panel, the bicycle pedestrian panel that I'm on. Noted. But I mean, those are like real life situations that you just don't think about the importance of, you know, multimodal travel until you get into a situation where you're just, the only option you have is to get into a car.
All right, thank you so much.